Welcome to the AME Food Testing Show. Today's topic, how to automate a FSMA-Ready food safety plan. Today's guest, Barabara Levin, Senior Vice President and co-founder of SafetyChain software. Barabara has spent more than 30 years helping companies understand how to leverage emerging technologies to achieve strategic and tactical business initiatives. In her role at SafetyChain, Barabara works with food and beverage companies to increase their understanding of how food safety chain management innovations save time, save money, and increase compliance efficiencies at all points in their supply chains. Barabara is a frequent author and speaker in the food safety industry. Now, welcome with me, Barabara Levin.
Thank you, Andy. Very excited to be here again. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's begin with our first substantive inquiry. Why should food companies consider automating their safety plans for FSMA if they haven't automated them up till now?
Well, I think anybody that's been reading up on the recently announced regulations and rules for the Food Safety Modernization Act, one of the first things everybody's realizing, Andy, is that FSMA food safety plans are going to be far more complex than many of the plans that are in place today. And most of the experts that I speak with are agreeing that in order to fulfill these requirements, automation is just going to become mission critical. Manual processes that have been in place for many, many, many years are just really not going to cut it anymore. Technology is really going to be necessary to help keep track of and ensure, but more important, ensure the completion of things like prerequisite programs and corrective preventative actions, the CAPAs, documentation requirements, of which there are many. But one of the things that we'll hopefully talk about a little bit later, the silver lining there is that a lot of these technologies actually will create return on investment for folks, so there can be a win-win in this for everybody.
Excellent. Barabara, that summation of having a return on investment is probably the biggest inquiry out there. Can you tell us the key components of a FSMA food safety plan?
Sure. There are really 6 key components, and we'll get into each of these in a little bit more detail. But the high-level summary, the first is that there is a product and facility plan. The second component is risk assessment. The third is preventive controls. The fourth is monitor, verify, and validate. You'll hear that a lot in FSMA terminology. The fifth are the CAPAs, again, corrective preventative actions, and reanalysis. And the last is documentation. Those
6 points, most people will say, and in my experience, and I'm sure you join with me in this, Andy, I've already got that. Why should I change it? Let's take a look, Barabara. Can we take each of these components one by one and have you describe the key requirements and how systems like your automation can facilitate this type of compliance? Let's start with the first one. What is a FSMA product and facility plan?
Okay, so Andy, the first component we said was the product and facility plan. So here's, some of the biggest differences, obviously, right? There's not a lot of companies that have a one-size-fits-all plan today, but with FSMA, it's that to the 100th power. FSMA is going to require that not only do impacted companies have written food safety plans, but they need to have a separate written food safety plan for every product. And there are some allowances for groups of similar products, but every product or product group and every facility. So, if you think about it, this requirement it could mean literally thousands of PRPs and CCPs and safety specs and more, not to mention the potentially overwhelming increases in people hours to track and ensure that all of these plans are being followed. This requirement could mean literally thousands of PRPs and CCPs, not to mention all of the overwhelming people time, and folks are not getting additional budget. for more people. So when we speak about automation, and I want to put out there that, obviously I work for a technology company. We've got automation for food safety. There are a lot of systems out there. Automation is also not a one-size-fits-all. So I'm going to be speaking generically about the types of automation features that folks should consider looking for when they're thinking about automating their FSMA food safety plan. So when it comes to the product and facility plan, there's several ways in which automation can help. One is most systems are going to allow you to set up all of your specifications, your preventive controls, your prerequisite programs, your every acronym, Andy, CCP, SOPs, like good agricultural practices, supplier requirements, including the recently announced requirements for FSMA's foreign supplier verification program, and these can all be defined within a system. So you've got your plans set up electronically. The next thing that automation will allow folks to do is to automate the task scheduling. So all of the tasks and the times and places that those tasks need to take place can all be scheduled. Systems can generate automatic alerts when tasks are due and escalating alerts when tasks have not been completed. Now, all of these components then and all of the associated data will be maintained regardless of the number of facilities and locations in a central repository of data. Those central repositories in most systems are going to have dashboards to allow folks to monitor and train and respond to audits and give an entire look at the whole food safety operation and to make sure that the plans are being completed. So that's one way in which technology is really valuable here.
Well, let's talk about the second requirement of risk assessment in the new FSMA regulations.
So, again, with FSMA, FSMA is, the whole concept behind FSMA, Andy, of course, is prevention. It's designed to help prevent food safety events versus react to them after they occur. So for a FSMA food safety plan to be compliant, one of the things that companies need to do is assess the risks that are reasonably likely to occur. This isn't covering that 1 in 1,000 chance, but these are the things that, given the process, given the product, given some of the ingredients perhaps, that there is a reasonable likeliness that there will be a food safety occurrence. And this has just been a daunting task. I speak to companies all the time, and food safety information is not in one place. It is in different facilities. Some of it might be in systems, but, electronic doesn't mean automated. A lot of times they're in, the data's in different facilities, different systems that don't speak to each other. Sometimes it's in binders, it's on people's desks. So doing those kinds of deep analyses and risk assessments has been very daunting. When you've got all of your safety plan information and all of the information that follows that plan, test results, CAPAs and whatnot, and all of these are then creating a central repository of all of your safety and quality assurance information, then you then have that central repository to do in-depth analysis and trending, which can then, in fact, help you identify your risks.
Excellent. Barbara, risk assessments tie directly into preventive controls, as you know, which is part of the third element of the FSMA safety plan requirement. Can you describe how automation helps with preventive controls?
Mm-hmm. So again, one of the requirements here, Andy, is that once risks are assessed, preventive controls have to then be designed to prevent the risks that are reasonably likely to occur. In addition to HACCP critical control points, preventive controls can cover additional things, right? So while most CCPs can be preventive controls, not all preventive controls can be CCPs. So preventive controls can be established with things like process controls, allergen controls, sanitation, recall plans, and training. So automation helps here, again, with the ability that all of these controls can be set up in the system. And the key then is that many systems have automatic task scheduling and those alerts that we spoke about earlier. So it's not just that you have to do training, but who needs to be trained, what they need to be trained on, how often they need to be trained. Did the training take place? All inbound COA information, certificate of analysis, or safety results are also coming into the system, and they're analyzed against specifications in real time. Alerts can then also be sent out when a preventive control isn't completed, or if that preventive control is related to a test, if the results deviate from specifications. All of this is manual right now, and what can take days or have things be omitted can all be automated to make sure everything is happening and that all the results are being seen right away.
Barbara, the fourth and fifth components of this new food safety planning is monitoring and validation and corrective preventive actions. Can you review those for our audience?
Absolutely. Andy, thank you. So, so far we've spoken about setting up a plan, assessing risk, creating preventive controls. Well, obviously all of these components are only as good as if they are happening and if they are working. So FSMA calls for continuous monitoring, verification, and validation of those preventive controls. Again, after all, the idea is to prevent food safety outbreaks from happening versus responding to them after the fact. So, when we think about monitoring and verifying and validating, really what we're saying is that you have to say what you're going to do, you have to make sure that you're doing it, and you've got to make sure that it worked. So how can automation help with these efforts? Again, you can define all of these preventive controls and the related prerequisite programs or CCPs that are associated with them so that they are defined in the system and that there's that automatic scheduling to make sure that they're being done. So you've got alerts that go out if they're not being done, or you've got the information being entered. So you've got that monitoring going on. The system is continuously gathering all of the related data, and that's how you are able to analyze and verify the information. Validation is achieved then by looking at that data, by being able to now have all of that information in the same place to do that in-depth analysis. You're also able to do that in-depth analysis when you get those real-time alerts when there's deviations. So not only do you know that it's being done, but you can tell if it's working. So, if you're finding a problem over and over again, and let's say it's a sanitation problem, that's going to give you the information that you need to decide, well, maybe we need to do sanitation training more frequently, or maybe we're doing it frequently, but it's not working. So maybe we need to revise or retool our training. And so automation there is obviously a very, very effective tool. The last one on this section here was the CAPA and the reanalysis. So FSMA plans require that when a preventive control fails, a corrective or preventive action must be put in place. And it also requires that plans and controls have to be reassessed periodically for two reasons. One, if there is a food safety incident that is caused by a failure in a preventive control, and then in general, so that you can have the data and that you can look for areas of continuous improvement. Automation, again, is going to help these two requirements, features such as those real-time alerts so that you can take a CAPA at the earliest point possible. A good analogy here is think of the difference between, Andy, a smoke alarm or an arson investigator. You're going to have to figure out what happened, and you're going to have to figure out how to make it not happen again and how to repair the damage. But when it's a smoke alarm, which comes from automation, getting the information in real time very often, you can get that information to take that CAPA before a lot of damage is caused. versus perhaps having to do it after a recall, after people have gotten sick. All of this information gets time and date stamped, before and after information. Many systems even allow before and after digital photos. So this is giving you upstream and downstream visibility into all of your safety actions and results. And that way you can also do that tracing and root cause analysis to try to find out where these safety deviations are occurring.
Barbara, your suggestions and illuminations are very helpful. Yesterday, I had a food producer tell me, Andy, I've been doing this for 25 years. Why should I change? As I'm listening to you, I'm getting the message. The last of the 6 components of a FSMA safety plan, but certainly not least, is the documentation, which is probably the most onerous part for any food producer. Can you tell us what the documentation requirements are and how automation may help in that area?
Andy, like you, I'm gobbling up all the information that I can about FSMA, and there is one phrase that I read and hear over and over again, and that is with FSMA, if it isn't documented, you might as well not have done it. And there is going to be no getting around that. Everything must be documented. The programs that you've put in place, all the acronyms, the PRPs, the SOPs, the CCPs, proof that they were completed, proof of validation that they worked, all of the test results, all of the CAPAs, all of the supplier documents. This is, even without FSMA, this is something that's just very, very, very difficult to do manually. I speak to folks, you're asking, telling about your associate who wanted to know why they should change after 25 years. I spoke with somebody and I thought they were kidding when they were talking about their forklifts of binders for an audit. And they sent me a picture of the forklift with the binders, the boxes and boxes of binders. This just isn't going to cut it anymore, the manual documentation. So, everything that we've spoken about so far, the setting up of the plans, the alerts to make sure that the tasks are completed, the test results coming in and being analyzed in real time with those alerts that are going out if there's a safety deviation, either in a test result, a micro test result, for example, or a training task. The CAPAs, everything is being recorded then in these systems. Everything is then there. It's available on demand. People that use these systems, I've heard stories of, okay, the FDA's got an inquiry. Okay, let me take my iPad out here and log in and get that answer in 2 minutes, or be able to respond to those audits without the forklifts of binders and the days and weeks or hours that it takes, while the operation halts while everybody's trying to gather that paper. The other thing is, these systems have unalterable time and date stamps, so that's going to also bring greater efficacy to the food safety and quality control data. So I think if nothing else, being able to have everything documented, be able to respond not just to customer complaints or customer audits or requests, but, when the FDA comes knocking on the door, here's everything. It's all in one place. It's all available and on dashboards, or can be reported, and it's all time and date stamped. So we think that's probably one of the ways in which automation really has high value.
Barbara, as you know, you're a longtime contributor to the AME Food Testing Show. One thing I've learned from you, and that's very critical, is that with an automated system, you have an automatic, and you said here, unalterable time and date stamp. And that is so different than me in my auditing function. I've seen sheets of paper with pencil, with whiteout, with ink that is not stricken through correctly. That eliminates that entire area of frustration. This all sounds very necessary at this point. However, can you argue that in many cases it can be a struggle for these new requirements to get funding for automation? And how do you suggest that companies go about building a business case for this type of new computerization?
Mm-hmm. Sure, Andy, although I'm still trying to get the vision out of my mind of whiteout on audit documents. That's something we never want to see, right? Absolutely. Andy, you bring up a good point. We all know, FSQA folks, that it's hard to go ask for money. We've all got to live by the KPIs, the key performance indicators. It's a low profit margin industry to begin with. But we've seen a lot of food technology, come to the market over the last few years, and there's a lot of companies implementing it, regardless of whether they're going to be impacted by FSMA or not. And one of the things that that companies are finding is that technology is not an expense. Technology is a tool to actually reduce costs. And companies are finding that when they implement technology, whether it's for FSMA, whether it's not, whether it's for some other regulatory requirement or just to be able to gain efficiencies, within the operation, that there's hard dollar savings that can be achieved. And there's several ways that that ROI can be accomplished. The first and probably the most obvious are the manual processes. I've heard estimates from companies of how many people they think they're going to have to hire just to be compliant with FSMA. With technology, not only do companies not have to hire those additional people, they often find that they're able to actually reassign some of the people that they have to what they were hired for in the first place. Do you want your statisticians entering data, or do you want them analyzing data? So there's a lot of elimination of the manual processes, the labor costs, and the errors that are always associated with manual entry of anything, and the time lapse. There's a lot of ROI with product and yield optimization. When you're getting safety test results in real time, whether that's coming from cooling equipment or it's coming from third-party labs or your own internal tests, and you're getting those alerts that there's a problem, if you can prevent that tainted ingredient from going into production, you might have to throw out the ingredient, but you don't have to throw out the 50,000 pounds of whatever it was that you were producing. So there's a lot of yield and product optimization with technology. This lends itself to that risk mitigation, and technology can often help prevent many of the withdrawals and the rejections and recalls, and not just the big ones that everybody hears about, but the withdrawals that everybody has internally every day from product and waste that goes with, not getting safety test results in time to prevent it from contaminating the next point of production. And trending and benchmarking, here at SafetyChain, we hear this from our customers all the time that, this is one of the biggest values. Suddenly, all of this information is in one place. Trending, benchmarking, being able to do analysis on which of our vendors are giving us the highest safety and quality product at the lowest cost. Where was there a deviation that I am owed a credit from a supplier, for example? So having all of that information, being able to report on it, be able to continually fine-tune specifications, whether they're for safety or quality, be able to make sure that you're working with the most cost-effective vendors. There's tons of ROI there, and any technology vendor that your listeners work with, just about all of them, I know that we do, have ROI calculators that can actually sit down and look at a lot of the parameters in these categories, put a company's number in, and actually help them calculate the savings to build the business case for technology.
Barbara, I think you made one point that I can't get out of my brain at this point, and that is that you are taking your employees as a client and changing them from data entry into data analysis, and that is a benefit that I don't know that can be quantified. Mm-hmm. Let's tell the clients about your other SafetyChain software products and maybe a little bit about your customers.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Thank you for that opportunity. SafetyChain is the leading provider of an emerging technology called food safety chain management. And if you think about the concept of SafetyChain, SafetyChain solutions, food safety chain management solutions are designed to really help ensure safety and quality at all points along a company's supply chain, inbound, internally, and outbound. So you think about products coming in from everywhere, something's being done with them, products are going out. That's the supply chain. Safety chain management solutions stay a step ahead of that supply chain to keep non-compliant products from coming in or going out. Our solution, which is SafetyChain for food, helps companies in 4 areas: supplier compliance, FSQA, food safety and quality assurance program management, process controls and trending, and regulatory, third-party, and customer compliance. Thank you for asking about our customers, because so many customers of all sizes and of all company types, farm to fork. Some of our customers include Dole, Fresh Vegetables, Atkins Nutritionals, Squencher, Nature's Variety, Pet Food, Florida Caribbean Distillers, and many more.
Well, Barbara, you know, with that list that you just gave me, you answer a question I'm often asked. Andy, it's only for the big guys. We really can't afford it.
Yeah, you know, Andy, our solution is a cloud-based solution. I think probably 10 years ago, folks in this industry were a little bit wary about cloud. But cloud solutions, unlike some of the behind the firewall, really big, expensive solutions, are very, very affordable and scalable. And they have a price point, whether you are a company that has $2 million in revenue or, customers of ours like Dole, who, is the largest produce company on the planet. So they're very scalable and affordable and very secure. I mean, think about what we do in the cloud today. People deposit their checks by taking pictures of them with their cell phones, and employees are looking at their paychecks online, and people are paying their bills online. The cloud is highly, highly secure, and not only does it make it easier for the global supply chain, any particular company, all of their suppliers, all of their customers to be able to access and enter information, as their security allows them to. It's affordable. So really today, anybody out there that wants to leverage technology can afford it, and I think that most companies find within 3 to 6 months that they're actually achieving hard dollar ROI and actually realizing bottom line savings. So win-win, we like to say.
Well, Barbara, thank you so much for the time you've given us, and I concur that taking a company from a paper to an automated, and as you gave the example, the iPad generation, is something that we as food producers and their consultants should really think about seriously.
Well, Andy, thank you so much for having me. We always have fun doing these, and hope I was able to share some information that can help somebody out there who's staying up at night worrying about how they're going to comply with FSMA. Automation can help.
Well, thank you again, Barbara, and wish you a great day.
You too, Andy. Thank you.